Hi class, we're going to be talking tonight about market segmentation and how to actually segment an initial target market in a brand new small venture. Hopefully a small venture that has the capacity to grow to a large high growth venture. So I've said this before, you've all heard me say this before, in order to go big, you need to start small, and you need to keep that initial target market very, very focused, very, very specific. It is not okay to have an initial target market of everyone. We need our target market to be something that's realistic, that we can actually reach them, okay? So we typically will segment our initial market based on assumptions, based on educated guesses about who we think will be our most likely early adopters, our most likely users and buyers of our product and service. And we're taking a focus approach and a single segment strategy approach, which essentially means that we are focusing in on one portion, one part of that initial demographic, or I'm sorry, target market initial users. Not all of the people who could potentially buy from us. We know that there are many, many, many different people who will buy from us, but we're trying to focus on who will be the most profitable segment, because we want to target them first, right? So we'll start by dividing our market into geographic segmentation. So we'll pick a location that we can realistically reach. Now, even if you're selling online, I want you to think, do I need any face-to-face interaction with my potential customers? Do I need to be involved? And the answer to that usually is yes. We're still going to need to go out, reach out, and talk to human beings about using this product or service. It's not going to, it's not enough to be far away when we first start. So you should start usually very geographically localized in the area that you could realistically drive to and reach. Okay. I'll give an example of a friend of mine runs a very successful, I won't name the company, but very successful food. It's actually a beverage, and they are across the United States and actually across the world now. But when they first started, they started by giving out free samples in Whole Foods markets, and really pushing the customers to try it. And they knew who would be the early adopters, and they knew that they would probably be the kind of people who shopped at Whole Foods market, and they went there and they reached them. But they needed to first start small before they went big. And they started in San Diego, then to Los Angeles and Orange County, and then on and on and on. So demographically, you want to just segment according to age, race, religion, religion probably, well, my political affiliation might make a difference, education might make a difference, but only put that segmentation variable if it matters in terms of your initial target market. Psychographically, we're talking about behaviors, psychological differences, opinions, lifestyles. So do they play hockey? Do they use a smartphone? Do they drive a car? Are they, what's important to your product or service? So example, company, another person that I know who is had his company started through the on-campus incubator, the Zon Innovation Platform at SCSU. He made a company called Shredlights that has these headlights for skateboards. And so his psychographic segmentation variable would probably say something like people who skateboard, right? There's no use targeting people who surf if you're trying to go after skaters, right? Okay. In terms of behavior, I don't love the term on this. It's purchase behavior. I should just put purchase behavior. I don't know why they call it behavioral, but what we're talking about here is not the way that they behave. That's psychographic. What we're talking about with behavioral is how do they behave when they're buying it, right? Or why are they buying it? So, for example, do they purchase it yearly? Or do they purchase it daily? Or is it every hour? I don't know. Is it something that they purchase on an impulse? Or do they think about it a long time before they buy it? is if it's an app, do you give it away for free? And then do you charge for premium services? And if so, is it a monthly subscription, or do you do a one-time fee, $1.99 on the App Store? Like, what is it, right? This is the purchases. Okay. So then you make a table, and this is what the table looks like. You put the segmentation method. Let's see if I can move me over here. Okay. You put the segmentation method over on the left-hand column. So geographic, demographic, psychographic, et cetera, et cetera. And the descriptions in the center column, and then the market size goes over on the right. So when you're doing the description, this is the next step in the process. So leave the column on the left side exactly like it is. In the middle column, I would like you to put what you as a founding team think is the most important thing about those initial early adopters target market. So I put for geographic, on my business, I said I could realistically only reach all of San Diego County. That's it. Leave the numbers alone for now. We'll get to that. Then you need to segment demographically. So male, I chose, then I said they need to be, they're probably African-American males. They're probably in affluent families making money, right? So what we do is we then go on to psychographic. For me, I said, I only want to talk to extroverted people because I'm selling a product that is specifically right for these extroverted boys, African-American boys. And that's the people who are going to buy my product. And they're going to be purchasing it once a year as a gift. I don't know why they're buying, but whatever. Okay, that's what they're going to be doing. So once we have all of that in, then we go to the market size estimations, and you research it, right? So you start with the estimated market size. So it's easy. This part of the search is easy. Size of San Diego County, right? Put it in there. The next segmentation methods as we go down gets harder and harder, because if you think about it, you're not going to find in secondary research somewhere out there that has all of these columns together in their research. Nobody out there likely has researched your exact initial target market. Those specific people who are going to be buying your product or service. And so since we can't Google how many African-American males, teenage boys living in San Diego are extroverted, it just doesn't, there's nowhere else that's going to have this, right? So we got to do it separately. So you start with the San Diego County, then the way that you do the next, as you go down, you're whittling down the number as you go. So the next step down the process is you would type into your search bar, what percentage of the US population is male? So the reason why we do US population is, I mean, you can put in San Diego population and see if you can get that specific information. If it's there, great. If not, you're just making assessments about the one based on what you know is true about the whole. Okay, it's basic reasoning. It's basic reasoning. So you say, I assume that if 49% of the US population is male, then it must hold true that 49% of the population of San Diego is also true. Deductive reasoning, right? Same thing is true with the African-American, et cetera, et cetera. So we take that search, what percentage of the population, it's 49%, and then we apply that number to our initial estimated size of 3,325,000. And so we multiply the 49.2 times the estimated size of the market up here, and then that gives us this number. And then we keep going down the table. What percentage of the US population is African American? So we know that it's about 13%. So we can apply that 13% then to the number above it, because we're now saying this and this and this. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? It's not, sometimes you can find some of these together, but usually you can't. It's better just to separate them all out and then work your way down. Same thing about income. Extroversion was a hard one to find, and a lot of these are not easy to find. So I was thinking, how do I find what percentage of the population is extroverted? Well, I just put it in the search bar. What percentage of the US population is extroverted? Well, sure enough, we find that on personality assessments, particularly the Big Five personality indicator test, that 50% of the population scores as extroverted. So then we can extrapolate that if that's true with this test, people that take this test, it's probably true of the population in general, probably true of yada yada, right? So we put that in there. And we applied the 50% to the number above it. So each percentage gets applied to the number above it. Always include in your research where you got the information, so that adds credibility to what you're saying in your table. And then finally, you put the purchase behaviors. And that's important, not because it changes the market size or it helps us estimate the market size, but it tells us how often we can reach that number. So if this is, so for me, I put once a year, right? But if it was once in our lifetimes, that's different than once a week, right? Or once a day. It tells us how often we'll be getting and reaching that, so that we can start getting some numbers and some estimates. Obviously, not the final step, but this gives us a really good starting point for estimating market size, and it's way better than guessing, way better than guessing. It has a little bit of credibility there. All right. So here's some tips. Add variables, only the relevant variables. You're just dealing with that initial single segment, the most likely target market, not everyone. Only include the variables that are relevant. If extroversion isn't important to you, don't put extroversion. I always see when I give that as an example, or any example I give, it seems like half the class, or not half the class, but several members of the class will use that exact same example in their table when it doesn't really matter to their product or service. So make sure you're really thinking about what's important to my, on my business, for my initial target market. Yeah, and we already talked about this. Be very explicit about the numbers. Now, if you're doing a B2B, business to business, it's different, because who cares how old the people who own the business are, what they, all of the other things doesn't matter, right? So what we care about is what kind of business we're trying to reach. First of all, where is the business? What kind of business? Maybe it's important how much money they make. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's important who owns them. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's important what they sell. Maybe it isn't. If it's important, you put that, okay? And then again, behavior is purchase behavior, and you tell us how often they're going to be buying. Now, some of us will have no way to do a single segment because we have to sell to both users and buyers, or we have to sell to both businesses and consumers. If that's the case, we start with two segmentation tables, or 3 or 4. When we have existing business and we actually have some sales, chances are we'll start to the market will start to segment naturally anyways, and then we can let the data guide us about our segmentation methods. And then finally, you end with a customer persona. It's a quick version of a customer persona. I like entrepreneurship because it's quick and dirty, right? We do things just quick. So customer persona can be a very involved process about picking a prototypical user or buyer, prototypical representation of our target market. What we do is we look up the variables, our segmentation variables, we put them into Google, and then we click on images and we say, there's a picture of our African-American teenage boy from an affluent family. I think, it says right here at the bottom, the Shutterstock, where I searched it in Shutterstock. So, and that's what we do. So we get that picture, we include that picture, and that gives us a picture, a real way to visualize. He's what we're talking about. He is the person we're talking about when we're talking about our target market. That's the one who's going to give us the most money. That's our profitable segment. And then oftentimes we give a name to him. I think in our class, I can't remember what we named him. Was it, I can't remember, Joshua or Jaden or something like this. At any rate, give him a name so we can say, hey, we've got to reach Jaden. So that's market segmentation. Hope you enjoyed the show. We will see y'all in class. Take care. Bye-bye.